Hey everyone, this is Kevin, your Aptrepreneur, and welcome to the Daily Rideshare. For those of you who are not aware, I have been contemplating changing the format for a little while, and we are finally going to be testing that format out. Now, thankfully, I won't need to explain what this is every single time, but we are going to have to describe, at least for now, what this is. And the way this is going to work is for every day, there's going to be one video for each category. The Daily Rideshare is going to be all of your news of Uber and Lyft and Get and Juno, if they are in fact still out there. And what we will do is the title of the video will be of the main story of the day, which we will, of course, talk about first. After that, we will talk about the other stories, and they will be timestamped below in the description. When I was doing individual videos for all these stories, I think I was rambling too much and I was stretching out the commentary way too long. So the way it's going to work is that, again, the main story will be the long one, and then we will do the shorter videos, and it will allow me to be much more to the point, which I think everyone can agree would be a lot better. We're going to test the format out for like a month or so, and we're just going to see how it works. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back to doing the way it used to be. But if it does work, or if there seems to be, if it seems to be catching on, then yes, we will definitely continue it. And yeah, I'm going to acknowledge up front what some of you are going to be saying. By only titling the video after the main story and keeping the other stories hidden, yeah, you do kind of have to click on the video link and look at the description to see what all the other stories are, and I'm sorry about that. Like I said, this is an experiment. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to the old way, but yes, I acknowledge that you're going to probably have to do that, and I'm sorry about that, but hey, at least you don't have to do multiple clicks, right? Right. Okay, let's move on. What's our first story? What did Uber screw up for today? Oh man, our first story is Lyft. Well, how's that to start off a show? A show all full of Uber stories, and the main story is Lyft, and it's not even in a positive light. Well, anyway. So, many of you have been emailing me, and I knew this was kind of coming for a while, that Lyft was doing the exact same thing with their upfront pricing that Uber was doing, where they were quoting passengers one price, they were quoting a drivers another price, and then they were pocketing the difference. Now, I've never discussed this, not because I didn't believe you, but because I actually did my own research and I made videos about this where I found that there was no real price discrepancy. Lyft did do the upfront pricing, but it did not appear that they were pocketing any difference. Well, thanks to NBC5, which was a local affiliate station, I believe, in Dallas, Texas, who did some research, it turns out that at least in some areas, and probably more than we realize, Lyft is finally doing that. So according to the article, this was brought to light by Brian Bleeker, who has been driving for Lyft for more than 2 years. He said he's been happy, but he admits it's not been an easy living. He quote, "I'm struggling to make this work full time. I wasn't sure my house payment was going to clear this month." Bleeker gets paid per ride. He thinks Lyft pays him the rider fare minus a 20% cut that Lyft takes. He said that's what he agreed to when he signed up. But Bleeker recently heard rumblings from Lyft that wasn't being upfront about what it's charging riders. So he asked his riders to help him investigate, and he was totally floored when he did the math. It didn't make any sense. Here's what he told us. He found a rider paid Lyft $22.16 for a ride, but the fare Lyft reported to Bleeker was $17.78. Another ride, Lyft charged the rider $48.46, but Lyft told Bleeker the ride paid just $35.47, and you can probably figure out where this is going. Now, there's this whole video here that you can see, and I encourage you to click the link below and watch the whole video because the news team did a very good job. They went out, they compared rides, and none of the rides matched up. They reached out to Lyft for contact, and Lyft did a very disappointing no comment, but that they filed to dismiss a lawsuit against them. And this is, of course, disappointing. It's very disappointing, probably not entirely unexpected, and even though I have always taken a stance that until Lyft actually does something wrong, I'm not going to get on their case about this, I probably should have expected this coming a lot sooner, because basically Lyft has always been a mirror of Uber. They mirror Uber in everything they do. If Uber cuts the rates, Lyft cuts the rates. If Uber adds destination filters, Lyft adds destination filters. It used to not be that way. Lyft used to innovate, but Uber got in such a mess that Lyft got into this mentality that as long as they didn't screw up, they basically would survive, and they basically have not been innovating since. And unfortunately, and this is probably just business, as Lyft starts to ape Uber in the positives, they were probably going to start aping them on the negatives. And when they realized Uber's little upfront pricing scheme, they did the upfront pricing thing, but I think they were very clever. They didn't really make it obvious what they were planning. At first, the prices matched pretty much perfectly. But then as time goes on and people are focused more and more on Uber, then Lyft starts to do their own upfront pricing pocket change thing where there's a different price and they will pocket it. The difference, of course, is that it's not in the user agreement that Lyft is allowed to do this, where Uber put it right in our faces. So Uber, at the very least, covered their butts that way, and Lyft didn't. Doesn't mean I agree with either of them, and in fact, Lyft definitely did themselves no favors, because considering that a lot of drivers are a lot more loyal to Lyft than Uber, and Lyft pays pretty much the same thing, this is the kind of thing that can actually destroy your reputation with the drivers, and it's not cool. And the next story on our list, of course, we have to now get to Uber, and I think the rest will be about Uber, but Uber is working with Toyota on a vehicle and system built for ride sharing, and as you figured, it's going to be autonomous. According to the article, Toyota is developing an all-electric driverless shuttle that will be used specifically for commercial services in partnership with major players like Amazon, Didi, Pizza Hut, and Uber. Working with one of the world's largest car manufacturers on a commercial autonomous service is a significant opportunity for each of these companies, but it could also represent a new kind of self-driving relationship for the ride-hailing community. Aside from Toyota, which invested in Uber in May 2016, Uber is also working with Volvo and Daimler on driverless cars. Those relationships represent opposite sides of a spectrum of possible business models. Uber's work with Toyota may fall somewhere in between. So, anyway, this is not surprising. I mean, I was definitely hoping that Uber's new CEO would realize that the self-driving cars were not a foolproof thing and that they are, quite frankly, years away. But you know what? The idea of getting rid of the drivers and saving that expense is probably too much to pass up. So, of course, they're going to push forward a little bit more with it. And you can watch the various YouTubers. Some people like myself are not concerned about the self-driving cars because we know what a future way they are, how many years they are, the logistics of getting them to work on the scale that Uber wants them to work is very, very unlikely anytime soon. And then you have some YouTubers who believe that it's actually a lot closer than we think. And I guess time will tell which one of us is right and which is wrong. I frankly don't care at the moment. But it should be noted that, yeah, Uber still basically thinks you're replaceable and they're still trying to replace you, and they're not the only ones. Amazon and Pizza Hut and Didi and Lyft, all these companies, they think you're replaceable and they are going to invest to try to replace you in the near future. And the next story on the list is that the CEO of Sprint is going to be joining the board of Uber directors. Now, this is, as you can probably imagine, a direct result of the SoftBank investment. You know, SoftBank gets 2 seats on the board to fill as they choose, and the Sprint CEO is one of them. According to Engadget, SoftBank has more than a large stake in Uber. It'll soon have some direct control as well. Recode sources understand that Sprint CEO Marcelo Clar is taking one of SoftBank's 2 slots on Uber's board of directors in the next few weeks. The other slot is reportedly slated to go to Rajiv Misra. I think I said that wrong, but oh well. It's kind of becoming a running joke at this point. The leader of SoftBank Vision Fund that took charge of the Uber deal. Neither Uber or SoftBank has commented on the apparent scoop. And of course, this is one of the things that people are now starting to debate a little bit more, because now that SoftBank has bought a pretty big stake in Uber and they bought out some early investors, they're putting their own people on the board, it does raise questions who actually runs and controls Uber. And that's going to be a very messy situation, and I don't think we're going to have a clear answer to that for a little while, so keep an eye here. We'll continue to talk about it. In other news, at CES, a smart fridge can actually call you an Uber. No kidding on that one. According to the ABC News article, it's now possible to ask your fridge to book a ride with Uber. Samsung on Sunday unveiled its latest home appliances at the CES Gadget Show in Las Vegas, including an upgrade to its 2-year-old line of internet-connected refrigerators. People talking to the Family Hub 3.0 refrigerator from their kitchen can ask to help plan meals, keep track of whether their produce is still fresh, control their home devices, or arrange for a ride. It recognizes different members of a household by the sounds of their voices. It uses Samsung's new Bixby voice assistant, the company's attempt to compete with the likes of Amazon's Alexa and Google Assistant. Claudio Santos, who directs Samsung's refrigerator marketing, says the fridge makes sense as a smartphone home because people spend so much time near it. And it's stories like this that make me wonder, whatever happened to just taking notes. Like, why do I need my refrigerator to call me an Uber? That's just, I don't know. It's kind of like those $80 mugs, that one that my dad actually got for Christmas, where you can use an app to control the temperature. It's kind of cool, but I don't think that's a feature I necessarily need. So, and our final story today, airports are preparing to levy fees for Uber and Lyft drivers in Alaska, according to GNUEmpire.com. And by the way, I want to add, the author's name is James Brooks, which I find hilarious because James L. Brooks is the producer of The Simpsons and director of classic movies like As Good as It Gets, In Terms of Endearment, Broadcast News, but not How Do You Know? That's a pretty terrible movie. But according to this article, Alaska's 3 largest airports are preparing to levy fees on people who use ride-sharing programs like Uber and Lyft. In a public notice filed last week, the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities announced that it will levy a $3 per ride fee on transportation network companies that use the Anchorage and Fairbanks airports. Transportation network company is a technical term for companies like Uber and Lyft that use smartphone applications to connect freelance drivers with people who need rides. House Bill 132, which passed the legislature last year and was signed by Governor Bill Walker, made Alaska the last state in the country to allow transportation network companies. A clause within the bill allows DOT, which owns most of the state's airports, to negotiate fees for those companies to operate at a state-owned airport. According to the notice, the fee will become effective February 1st. The fee does not apply to state-owned airports in Southeast, such as the airports of Sitka and Ketchikan. I believe that's how I pronounce it. And this, for the record, folks, for those of you who are in Alaska, don't panic too much. They're not going to be personally charging you the fee, but they will be charging the passengers the fee, and those fees tend to affect things like whether or not you get tipped at the end of the ride, and that's just kind of the way it is. And that's where I'm going to end the daily rideshare today. What do you folks think? Like the new format? Do you think there's any other news stories that can be included? Feel free to comment below. What are your thoughts on any of the things we talked about? I'd love to hear them. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy the videos I make, consider becoming a Patreon member for as little as $1 a month. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.